Hey everybody, what's going on? This is going to be an in-depth guide for Peni Parker, and we got a lot to go over, so we're just going to jump straight into it. I'm going to go through her abilities, explain to you how to use them, tell you some things that you might not know about several of them, and give you some general tips on how to use her and find some success, all right? So let's start with her left click. A few important things to note about her left click are it never has to reload, so you can spam it forever. You will take a little bit of a movement speed hit when you're using it, but we'll talk about how to negate that soon. The trade-off for never having to reload it, I would say, is that it can't crit. So whether you shoot somebody in the foot or the head, doesn't matter. You're doing the same amount of damage. So don't stress yourself out about landing headshots with this hero because it's not going to do you any good. Really just be spamming it into fights, right? Now, let's move on and talk about her spider nest. This is arguably her most important ability. This is what I need you to put at the top of your priority list. Spider Nest needs to be down, and it needs to be out, and you need to be in it, okay? At all times. You get so many benefits from being in this thing. First off, if we come out of it for 3 seconds, we'll start to lose this bonus health we had, and we'll drop back down to 650. That's how much HP she has when she's not in her web. If you come into the web, she'll get healing over time, that will fill her up beyond her max health and put her at 800. So she is essentially an 800 HP tank if you're using her effectively. And what I mean by that is you should always be in her web. If at all possible, never be out of her web for more than 3 seconds, okay? Real quick, too, just to give you an idea of how good the healing over time is in the web. We'll take some damage down here. So you can see, you would think it would be kind of negligible, but it's pretty substantial healing over time, honestly. It's not the same as having like a Pocket Jeff or something, but it's pretty good. And then if you consider that your healers should be focusing you pretty hard since you're a tank, and you're already tanky, and it's healing you constantly, you're going to be pretty hard to kill. Unless somebody's got pretty good burst damage, or your healers just abandon you completely, you're going to be a pretty hard character to kill, all right? On top of getting healing over time when you're in your web, you get a movement speed buff. So if we come out here, you can see how fast, and then when we step in it, you see we pick up quite a bit of momentum. Again, if we're out here and we're shooting and we're slower, we step into our web, you'll see we move quite a bit faster even when we're shooting. So this is how you should be fighting. This is, honestly, there's no reason to let go of the left click. It's not, your accuracy stat doesn't matter, okay? And if you could occasionally be peppering damage into an enemy that helps one of your DPS or somebody doing more damage than you get that pick. Maybe that little bit of damage would be the difference. How many times do you see a Venom get away with 1 HP, or an Iron Man zip around a corner with 1 HP, or somebody get away with 1 HP? That one shot you hit on them could have been the difference, okay? So just be spamming damage. Now, some cool stuff about this is, one, these spider bots go on the ground, and anybody that comes into the web, they'll go after. So if we bring this down here, they'll go after these enemies, right? And it's not a ton of damage, but it does add up. Again, every little bit of damage matters in this game, so they will go after anybody that enters the web, which is very handy. Another thing to note about it is that it has a health bar. When you place it, if you look at the bottom left of the screen there, it's got 350 health. If it is full health, you can hit left shift again to destroy it, and there will be no cooldown. If you pick this thing up, I didn't mean to hit E there. If you pick this thing up when it has full health, there's no cooldown. It goes on cooldown based on how much damage it's taken. So if someone destroys it, it goes on cooldown for 16 seconds. At 50%, it's 8 seconds. So you can kind of learn to gauge when to take advantage of that. For example, let's say it's down to 50 health, right? It's barely hanging on, and you're in a team fight, and you win the fight. And there's going to be a little bit of a lull until the other team gets back. Go ahead and destroy it. Let the cooldown tick so that you can get it placed either before the next fight starts or early in the next fight, so that it's in full health, all right? Another thing to be mindful of is the placement of it. So let's say we were fighting over here. I'd probably want to put it somewhere like here. I don't want enemies to have direct line of sight. I want them to have to put themselves in bad position to get it so that either my team or myself can deal with them, right? If they can just shoot it from a distance, it's not doing as much good. So it's benefiting us directly by us being in it and being near it and all of the things that it does. But having it in good position also benefits us because it's going to pull enemies out of position. Because eventually, if you're using her correctly, they're going to start to realize you're a problem and they're going to have to start focusing you. And one of the main things in focusing Peni is focusing her spider nest. You got to get this nest out of the picture to really deal with her effectively, okay? So be mindful of that. Another thing is with the fact that it doesn't have a cooldown, move it with you. Do not be afraid to pick this thing up and bring it with you. We're up here fighting, and now the fight needs to reposition because maybe we got pushed a little too hard, or maybe we're pushing forward, or maybe it's convoy and the fight is moving. If you have to come out of this web, bring it. Do not let it sit. I go against so many Peni Parkers where they will have pushed all the way up here and down these stairs fighting, and their nest will still be sitting back there doing nothing for them. This nest is an attachment of you. It's an extension of you. You should not go anywhere without it, unless it is very momentary, right? Even if, like, let's say you're down here fighting and there's a Star-Lord or something up in here that's bothering you. If you want to go up there and deal with the Star-Lord, bring it. There's no reason not to be in it. It's bonus health. It's healing over time. It's bad for the enemy to be in it. It's your safe space. It's your safe space. It's the enemy's danger zone. That's how you need to view it, okay? A couple of other important things about this nest. You see why I'm saying it's arguably her most important ability. We are talking a lot about this nest and things that it can do. When you are in it, you have the mines, right? You have these mines that do pretty solid damage. When you drop them in your web, enemies can't see them. So you see them, enemies don't see them. What is interesting is that in the spider nest web, they can still be destroyed. So like if you're dropping them and fighting and enemies are shooting at you, occasionally they're going to be shooting a little too low and these mines are probably going to get destroyed. However, if they're in your right-click web, which is that one, if there's mines in here, they can't see them or destroy them. I don't really know why that's the case, but your right-click web protects the mines. So it's not a bad idea to get into the habit of right-clicking your web down over some of the mines in your nest. Because, again, this is your safe zone, right? This is your safe space. You want it to be as dangerous as you can make it for enemies to come in here. So if your nest is wherever it is, you create yourself a little area of mines that can't be destroyed unless someone steps on them. And we'll talk a little bit more about the mines in a second. But this way, if a Venom or an Iron Fist or a Psylocke or a Magic or any of these champs that like to dive you in your own space land on you, they're immediately going to take burst damage, and if it doesn't kill them immediately, it's going to make them very easy to kill, right? If an Iron Fist dives you, takes most of his health and damage, you turn around, right-click web him, pause him for a second, between you and your DPS going after him, you'll be able to get him out of there. You know what I mean? So make it dangerous for anybody to enter this space, all right? Another thing of note is you can create this area and tell your supports to hang out in it, right? You know, sometimes you get that Iron Fist or whoever that likes to get back there and really hassle your supports. Just tell them to hang out. Just create them a little safe zone back here. Tell them to hang out, do their job from back here, and if someone dives on them, holler, right? They're going to dive on them, take a bunch of burst damage. You can turn around, web them, help them pick them off. Another DPS can be around if your team's communicating. You can create a little safety zone for your supports to either be in or retreat to if they need to, right? So that they can't be too far from it. So it's a good idea to be communicating what you're doing, right? If your supports don't know that, they won't know to utilize it. But if you just let them know, hey, be around the back of my web if there's an Iron Fist or somebody all over your face. So lots to think about with this. I want the nest on your mind, okay? I want you mindful of the health that it has. I want you mindful of the cooldown. I want you mindful of the positioning. I want you mindful of everything you're doing with this nest because it is so incredibly important that you have it down, all right? I'm really trying to make sure I hammer that point home. You need to have the nest down. And you need to be aware of, like, the situation. Again, sometimes it's worth it to destroy it if it's at 30% health so that you can get it placed back down with full health before the next fight starts, all right? One last thing about it. Let's say we're fighting around this corner, right? We've got our nest here. Are they going to do? No, we're good. Okay. So let's say we're fighting around this corner, and this is our nest. Again, our right-click web is also web. So what we can do is create kind of a little trail. And they'll follow it. So you can extend the web from your spider nest, all right? So now, let's say it's one of those maps where it's convoy and they've got no real choice but to come through this choke if they're going to push the convoy. You can make this a real dangerous space for them, right? Because they have to use foot traffic through here, and their tanks are going to be trying to lead the way. So you drop some mines in here. Now y'all are backing up. You're holding a choke. You're fighting. Occasionally Groot or Hulk or one of their tanks is going to try to push through. He's going to step on 4 mines. They're not going to kill him, but they're going to take away more than half of his health. You web him. Y'all focus him down. You pick off a tank, right?
You know what to do, spiders? I found one of our critics. We make quite a team.
Nobody told him about the mines.
Time for some fireworks.
Nobody told him about the fucking mines, dude. You can make this very dangerous. Also, again, this web counts. So you see we're not losing health for coming out of it. So let's say our nest gets destroyed and we don't have any web. I'm going to turn off my cooldowns for a second. Right? You can create yourself a little area where you're good, right? They don't have to be touching. Don't get too caught up on the edges touching. Even the spider bots can cross small gaps, okay? You'll get... Oh, I've already updated. I'm good. I was like, man... the spider bots can cross little gaps, but create yourself some web to be in, right? If you're not in web as Peni Parker, you should be uncomfortable. You should be uncomfortable having that much less health than you could have, okay? So just really be mindful of that. Create yourself some space until your cooldown's gone, drop your nest down, now you can use your webs however you want to use them, all right? So I think that's pretty much all to talk about with the nest. There's a lot to take in there, but I want you to just use it. Make sure you're using it. Make sure you're pressuring yourself to be in it. Make sure you're being creative about where you're placing it, what you're doing with your extra webs. It's important. Keep it safe and keep it in action, all right? Moving on, let's talk a little bit more about the mines in detail, because the mines might be my favorite thing in her kit. I use the mines so ridiculously aggressively. I am constantly pumping out mines, and I think they're so good. One important thing to note about them is you can have 15 of them down at a time, which I think is kind of insane. I would anticipate this gets nerfed at some point, but you'll see as when we hit, so that's 16, 17, 18, and you see that the ones that we're placing are now, I'm sorry, the ones that we are placing are replacing the first ones we put down, right? Another thing to note about them is they have a 60-second uptime. So if no one touches them for 60 seconds, they'll just despawn. That'll rarely happen if you're using them effectively, okay? As I said, when they're in the spider nest web, and this is just based on my testing. I don't know if this is the way it's supposed to be. I don't know why this web would behave differently than this web, but there's a couple of moments where it seems to. For whatever reason, based on the testing I've been able to do, the mines in here are invisible to enemies, but still can be destroyed. So again, if you've got a bunch of them down and you're fighting, and Squirrel Girl's pumping bombs in here, and somebody's shooting at you from above or whatever, they're probably going to get destroyed. But if they're in the right-click web, they're safe. The only way they're going to go away is if they're there for 60 seconds and no one touches them, or an enemy triggers them, all right? Triggers them by getting in their range and taking damage from them, not triggers them by shooting them. So again, not a bad idea to double up and just put mines like that, okay? I don't use those mines without web unless I'm just in a fight, right? If we're just in a fight and enemies are here and we're just kind of like fighting for a space, and then I'll just be doing this with them. Because they're going to just land in the fight and get triggered and explode most of the time. They're rarely going to get destroyed. They're just getting triggered immediately. I never just place a mine like this and expect someone to trigger it and take damage, because they're pretty easy to see, and they're pretty easy to get away from if you saw them before you triggered them. I just feel like they're not really effective like that. However, I don't know if it's that people just don't know this yet. I'll say it's the most common question I get in my stream is, why are you putting mines in the web? Like, why do you always seem to make it a point to put them in the web? And it's because of the reasons I've said. It makes them invisible and indestructible to enemies. And this is just, no one seems to know to watch out for the web. So like I said, in the middle of a choke, when I do this and I stack 4, they kind of don't have a choice, but then in other areas, sometimes it's like they just don't know. So again, you can do it in an area where you know enemies are going to be forced to walk through. Let's say we're fighting here and you have that pesky Star-Lord that likes to come up here and pester your team, you can, you know, in the entrance to that room, set him up.
Hero, always.
They're pushed up way too far. We should be able to punish them for this.
Mine's in place.
If there's a wall, because I also do this a lot on walls, you can put it on the wall near the doorway where he's going to come in and do like this. Some maps have like, kind of like long, straight paths where you're fighting from a distance, and I'll do this and put mines on the wall because you'll have the DPS that are kind of strafing back and forth across the opening, and every now and then they'll back up a little bit too close to that wall, and they're gone, right? Pretty much nobody but tanks are tanking 4 mines, right? If we come over here and test this out with Luna real quick, let me kill her. We put 3 mines down. She's gone, right? So 3 mines will kill a squishy. 4 mines will kill a lot more stuff, just not tanks. But like I've seen it take Hulk from 100% to 40%. You know what I mean? I wouldn't get. I don't get personally too hung up on like the numbers it's doing.
They don't look friendly.
I just watch health bars. If you wanted to really get in there and get specific about it, I'm sure you could. But again, it makes a tank, a Groot or a Hulk or a Venom or something very easy to deal with. So use the mines like that. If you want to get real cheeky about it, a thing some people like to do is right outside the spawn, you just set up a bunch of mines and then go get back in position. Somebody will usually step out on it and die. I don't tend to bother too much with that, but you use these mines. These mines are ridiculous. It's not uncommon for me to have the most damage in the game as Penny, and it's in large part due to those mines. It's the mines and the fact that I've almost never let go of left click. I'm just constantly chipping away at whoever's in front of me so that my team can be more likely to get picks, okay? So use the mines. Use them strategically, use them intentionally, and then in situations like this where it's just a chaotic fight, just drop them. If it's a chaotic fight and you know you've got champs that like to like rush in and get in your face, again, Iron Fist comes up a lot, Psylocke, Magic, stuff like that. While you're in the midst of a fight, just drop a few at your feet, right? And then get back to fighting. If they're getting destroyed, drop a web at your feet, which you should be in anyway, right? And then you're fighting, just drop a few mines at your feet. Now anybody that dives you is going to take burst damage. You turn around, you web them, pick them off, okay? Use the mines. They're crazy good. Let's talk about the right-click web. We've talked a little bit about how it behaves a little bit differently in relation to the mines. Let's talk about its utility, because I think that this skill is a lot more powerful than people realize. And what I see a lot from enemy pennies is just spamming it into fights, right? We're jumping around, we're doing our thing, we're fighting, and every time it's off cooldown, they're just shooting it in. And like, it could be kind of helpful that way. A little bit of crowd control here and there adds up over time. But the things that this web is capable of, I think far outweigh those maybe not benefits. This right-click web can cancel ults. It can interrupt ults. It can block some ults, right? We tested it the other day with Iron Man. If you wait until Iron Man shoots his ult, you can hit it with this web in the air, and it'll blow up in the air and not hit anybody. And basically, Iron Man flushes his ult down the toilet. You can also just wrap him up when you hear him announcing, and it'll take him back down to 50%. Probably got an Iron Man ult coming soon.
Now who's the strongest, They make quite a team.
Same with Penny. If you hear an enemy Penny announcing her ult, Weber, there's a small window you can hit her in where it'll just cancel it and take her back down to 50%. Scarlet Witch, when you hear Scarlet Witch, hit her before she goes off. You've got a lot of time to hit Scarlet Witch. You can stop her ult from happening.
Nice.
We've won several games because of stopping a Scarlet Witch ult or an Iron Man ult or something like that. You can't do like Hela or Punisher. They're both kind of, they're not invincible, but like they're immune to most stuff while they're ulting. But a lot of ults can be dealt with her right-click web. So that's one way to use it very intentionally. Another way to use it very intentionally is, I'm going to use Venom as the example, but there's a lot of other champs that do similar stuff or that behave in a similar way to Venom. But you know, Venom will dive in on you, take a bunch of damage, use his skill that gives him all that blue health, right? And then he'll take a bunch more damage, and then he'll dip before you can kill him. And it's very aggravating, and a good Venom can be very hard to deal with, right? If you start to kind of get a rhythm for the enemy Venom's tendency to leave, right? To try to dip back out. If you start webbing him right before he wants to leave, your team will kill him every time. Because a good Venom is waiting until he's in danger and then getting out of there because they know how to maneuver him well, right? But if you take that away from him, if you make him stay even that half second longer than he wants to stay and be still while he no longer has all his bonus health, especially if his healers don't have clear line of sight, you will kill that Venom. Your team will kill that Venom if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Iron Fist in your backline. Every little pause you can put in him gives your team an opportunity to kill him before he's a problem. Magic, Psylocke, all these backline champs that dive. Sometimes Hulk will overextend and then try to get away. You can catch him on, like try to catch people on their way out rather than just firing it willy-nilly, right? It's not really going to do you as much good, and there's no worse feeling than just popping it off in a random fight and then hearing a Scarlet Witch behind you, or then hearing an Iron Man behind you, and it's like, well, sorry guys, I could have turned around and stopped that easily, but I wasted my right-click web. So use it intentionally. I'm not saying never use it aside from those other things, because there are instances where you are going to want to use it, but just be intentional about it. It's not a skill to just pop off every time the cooldown's off, all right? It can do some very powerful stuff if you're patient and intentional with it, all right? So, again, and it can stick to walls and ceilings and do all kinds of stuff. It can, as well as extend. Another thing to note on them is that you can have 3 of them down at a time, right? So 1, 2, now watch that one, 3, and that one's gone. So if I put a 4th one down, that one goes away. If you have 3 of them down and you don't miss, firing a 4th one doesn't get rid of any. It's only when the 4th one lands on a surface that it gets rid of one of the ones that you have down previously. So if you're accurate enough with it, you can have that bonus web to just hit enemies with while you've got your other 3 webs down, all right? What else we got? What else we need to talk about? We need to talk about her Cyber Bond. Now, I really like this skill. This is another skill that you're going to want to be very intentional with, and it's her bond, right? It sticks her to something. The game seems to want to encourage you to do this with it. Attach yourself to your spider nest so you can kind of fight. You can step out for a little bit, let go, and it pulls you back in, all right? Which is pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I don't use it like this much. Let me see if this still counts as being connected to the web. It doesn't. It doesn't count as being connected to your web, okay? So that's not what I do with it. I use it, I would say about 90% of my usage of this is escaping bad situations or getting to the point quicker. It has a range, and you're going to want to come into the practice range and get comfortable with it, because like this is too far away, so it's not going to stick to anything. And there's no worse feeling also than trying to use it to get away, but being too close to the surface and just doing that and not moving at all when you use it. It's a real bummer. It feels real silly to do that. So get used to the distance, right? So that you can just zip away from whatever bad situation you're in. And the kind of the star of bad situations, I would say, would be something like a Jeff ult. So if you know you've got a ceiling and you see an enemy Jeff coming in for an ult, or you hear the sound, immediately just get up. Just get up and get out of it, okay? If you don't have a ceiling, be aware of where your walls are, right? Get away from it. Like, just Psylocke, Jeff, Venom. Sometimes maybe you don't have your right click for Scarlet Witch, right? Maybe you just burned it and you don't have it and you need to get around a corner from Scarlet Witch. This is your escape, okay? So that's what I use it for most of the time. Occasionally, like I said, if I need to get up here and deal with a Star-Lord that's coming up on this ledge to bother us, or some other annoying pest in the background that no one's dealing with and I have to do it, it can be used for stuff like that. And then the last little tip I want to give you about it is, if you've got a ledge like this, certain angles it won't work, but most of the time this angle's fine. If you're running forward and you kind of web to the top of a wall, you'll just end up on top of it and you can just keep running, okay? It'll disconnect you. Otherwise, you have to disconnect it yourself. So you'll find your rhythm of like double clicking it, but not double clicking it too fast. What I tend to do is whenever I hit whatever surface I've shot myself to, I just hit the button again to disconnect. Because otherwise, you'll do like this, but then be stuck. Right? So make sure you're hitting it again so that you're free. But yeah, if you kind of aim at the top of a wall, a lot of spawns, when you come out of spawns, there's that wall just in the middle blocking direct line of sight. And if you aim right at the top of the wall, you can just keep going. And then there's usually another 2 or 3 opportunities to do something similar to get to the point much quicker than I think people think Penny should be getting to the point. And much quicker than you would get there if you were just running on foot, all right? So, that's what I use it for. Getting to the point quickly, getting out of bad situations, and occasionally getting to a position quickly to deal with a problem. Because in my experience, let's say we're fighting like this, and there's someone up there annoying our team that I need to go deal with because it's not getting dealt with. Most of the time when I do this, you can see the like panic. They're not expecting Penny to be the one that's up there immediately. They're expecting something else, right? So if I come up there immediately, drop my nest, right-click web them, start throwing mines down, I'm a problem, right? So even if I can't kill them, even if I don't have the firepower to just come in here and kill them immediately, I'm gonna get them out of this space or be able to distract them long enough for reinforcements to come in or whatever. And then when we're done, I just bring my nest back down to where we were and we're back in action, all right? So that's it for her movement skill. She can run up walls if you hold your jump button. I don't do a ton with it, honestly. Sometimes I'll hold spacebar to make sure I get over a wall, like if I'm doing that ledge trick like I was talking about, like this. I'll just hold spacebar like that, so that if I don't get up over the ledge, she'll run up it. As long as you're holding your jump button, she'll stay on the wall. If you let go of movement, she'll just pause. You can't go left, right, or down. You can only continue to go up. And then if you let go of your jump button, she just lets go of the wall, okay? So, I would say that that's pretty much all we need to talk about for her regular abilities. So let's talk about her ult. I think a lot of people don't really understand what her ult is supposed to be. I see, again, a lot of enemy pennies using this in a very ineffective way. I think a lot of people also might not think it's a very good ult because maybe they want an ult that's going to wipe the other team off the map. And that's not really what her ult is for. So you need to understand what your goal is with it to use it effectively. And what you're really trying to do is disrupt. This is a disruption ult. You are going to get into the enemy's face and just be a problem for the amount of time that this ult lasts, all right? And it is possible to get kills with it. I've gotten 4 or 5 kills with this on multiple occasions, but that's not really the goal. If you're trying to get a kill specifically at all, you're trying to take out a support in the back line. So let's talk about it. When you use it, you've got like 12 good seconds of being in this form. None of your other abilities work in the same way. You now have a left click and a right click. The left click is infinite, and if you hold it, she'll just continue to melee like this. And if you hit anybody with it, you pop them up, all right? Her other ability, when in this form, is mines. And you see we have 7 of them in the bottom left there. So every right click, she'll throw down mines. Not to mention she's dropping webs automatically, about 1 a second, which is shooting her health up, okay? You see we got a nice bump to our health when we ulted immediately, and then for being in the web, she gets that overheal. She continues to get that overheal, all right? So, some stuff to understand about this. You would think because your health goes up so far, you're gonna want to like be inclined to feel invincible, right? She's glowing, she's got all this extra health, she's got a bunch of blue health, it's her ult. You're gonna think like, yeah, I can get in here and do whatever. You still need your supports to be paying attention to you. It is not hard to kill Penny when she's ulted, if the enemy team understands that they need to deal with her when she ults. What'll happen is they'll all focus you. You'll get webbed by the other Penny. You'll get sedated. You'll get frozen. You'll get they're going to use all their abilities on you to stifle you as much as possible. So you're not invincible. You still need help from your support. So it's not a bad idea to let them know you're ulting. And generally it's like, all right, I'm about to ult. We need to push, right? We're going in. I'm going to initiate it with the ult. Everybody has to do their job now. So what you're doing is getting in and causing chaos, doing damage with the melees and the mines, and again, just creating all kinds of problems for them. Your team should be supporting you through this. And basically what you want to do with this ult is just run a really hectic lap, because you want to be back on your side before the ult's over. You don't want to get caught in the enemy side at the end of your ult. That's not going to be good. All right. So here's what an ult would look like. We're going to just start running through their team, meleeing and dropping mines, and then now we're back on the support, and now we can kind of deliberately focus the support, right? And then now we want to head back. Now we're back over here. Our ult's over. We're back to safety, and we did our job. We created chaos. We did a bunch of damage. If things went perfectly, we were able to focus and get a pick on a support, and hopefully our team took advantage of the disarray we caused, because not only did we pepper in some damage on our way to their backline, but now we've distracted their supports so that they can't do their job for the team that we're now pushing. So while our supports are doing their job, taking care of our team, their supports are dealing with me in their face. So again, even if you can't kill them, you've disconnected them from their team, which makes it that much easier for your team to win the fight, okay? So that's what our ult is for. So if you feel like it's not a great ult, maybe your expectations have just been a little off on what it should be doing, all right? So I think that's pretty much it. I think hopefully that should give you a pretty good understanding of how Peni Parker works and what you should be doing with her. She can put out a lot of damage if you're using all of her abilities, but you kind of see her abilities complement one another. You kind of need to be using a lot of them in conjunction with one or two or all of her abilities to really get the full impact of her. If you're not in your web and you're just shooting, you're probably not going to be having much success with her, which might make you think that she's not very good. So she's actually insanely good, but she does require a lot of attention and effort and active thought about what's going on with her abilities and all of that. So I'll probably do another video where we go into each map and I'll show you the spots that I like to put the nest and some of the spots that I like to put my web and mine traps that tend to get me a lot of kills and that I have a lot of success with, so that you can kind of have a template to build off of on every map. I'll be putting that video out soon, so if you want to see that, be sure and subscribe. Other than that, I do hope this was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. Other than that, I'm getting out of here. I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you next time.